What is good, good people? You are now listening to another episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and your boy is fresh off of a weekend excursion to the ATL, and I'm going to talk all about it. So, started my trip on Friday. I stopped at the Waffle House for breakfast before I got on the interstate. So, got done with that, hit I-26 around 8 a.m., and made my way up to Columbia, got on I-20, and then continued my mission over to Atlanta. So I arrived in Atlanta around 1:30 Friday afternoon. I made a couple of stops along the way to refuel. And the first place that I stopped was the College Football Hall of Fame in the heart of downtown Atlanta. And it's something I always wanted to experience. I've seen it on TV, and I was like, yo, that's dope. The way they got all of the different assorted college football helmets all stacked up to the ceiling. I was like, man, that's a lot of helmets, man. And just seeing all of the interactive things that you could do there. And I was like, yeah, this looks like a fun place to go. So I went there. Then when you check in, they take a picture of your face at the flat screen kiosk. And then they just ask you a series of questions. You type in your email, and then basically they're doing like a bio of you. It's almost like the Little League World Series. You'll have a graphic saying like your favorite player or like your favorite food and whatnot. So they basically ask that same line of questions. You grab a lanyard and it's got a QR code on the back. And once after the 15 minutes is up and the computer's uploaded all your information, basically is all your information is stored in that QR code that's on the back of your lanyard. And it becomes a very interactive experience. So once you walk up to the second floor, you can see all of the exhibits and stuff. They have like all the championship trophies. They had the Heisman Trophy, the Orange Bowl Trophy, the National Championship Trophy. And they had these flat screens that whenever you turn the lanyard over and you scan the QR code on the flat screen, it'll actually generate an AI depiction of your photo that you took downstairs at the computer. And I got to be honest, those are some terrible renditions of me. None of them look anything like me. One of them had me look like Lattimore. I mean, I know my hair is gray, but like his hair was like Snow White. And he looked like he was in his mid 50s. And they'll do an AI generated image of you holding a national championship trophy or one of you at a tailgating session. The tailgating AI generated image of me was absolutely egregious. It was me it had me with these long locks and these tight ass pants. And it was like a Polaroid snapshot. And the caption said, UNC versus Duke 1984, Danny. And number one, it looked nothing like me. Number two, nobody in 1984 was dressing the way that this AI picture was depicted. So yeah, they got a lot of work to do on that front with the AI facsimiles. But it was still a real cool experience getting to see all the trophies. And at the very bottom, back at the lower level, they have an actual football field. It's like a half of a football field rather. And you can run an obstacle course and you can kick the field goal. And that was something I always wanted to do, even at the ripe old age of 45. I had my first attempt at kicking the field goal, and I was one take Jake. I got it on the first try. I was pretty proud of myself. And spent a couple of hours in the Hall of Fame. That was a lot of fun. And then after I left there, my dog Rick, who's been on the podcast before, shout out to the homie Rick Dowell, him and his wife Danielle. I actually stayed at their house for the weekend in Atlanta, and he's a chiropractor, and he has a private practice over in Doraville. Shout out to Dowell Family and Wellness. Actually, I'll leave that link in the show notes. So I went and met up with him over there because it was almost time for him to get off of work, and so we were just shooting the breeze. And he had clients coming in and out. And once his workday was over with, he knocked off. We went back to his place and got my luggage and settled in. And then his wife showed up not too far after we got there. And then he was like, let's get something to eat. So we all decided on going to Fox Brothers Barbecue, which I'd never heard of. But man, it's so good. Oh my God, it's amazing. Fox Brothers Barbecue. I had the dozen smoked jumbo wings. Man, I think the only other wings I can think of that tasted similar to those were the ones that they used to prepare at Sticky Fingers. It's just real smoky, had that charred out, kind of charred outside, but the inside, when you cut, you see the flesh of the chicken is all pink from the smoke. It didn't even need sauce. A smoked meat is good when it doesn't even need sauce. And lo and behold, I actually got to meet his brother. I got to meet Rick's brother because him and his wife and their daughter were in town for some odd reason, and they happened to catch up, and I got to meet them and the rest of the family, and it was a really great experience. They had some cheese fries. They had brisket on it. It was just Fox Brothers Barbecue. Y'all did y'all's thing seriously. And then after I got my belly full, and then Danielle was like, "Y'all want something sweet?" I was like, "Yeah, I could go for something sweet to eat you." So we ended up going to this ice cream spot over in Buckhead. I wish I could remember the name of it. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, but I had a birthday cake ice cream scoop in the waffle cone, and man, I destroyed that thing. Got back in their vehicle, and as soon as we got to the stop sign, I had already had mine finished. It was that good. So I wish I could remember the name of it. But once we got back to the house, I just turned in for the night because I was tired from all that driving. And so I shut it down, just caught a little football on TV, and then went to sleep. Then got up the next morning. Actually, while we were on the way to Fox Brothers Barbecue, the good brother 12 Kyle reached out to me. Well, actually, no, I reached out to 12 Kyle because him and his son had a game to go to that Saturday evening, and I wanted to catch up with him while I was in Atlanta. And I was like, yo, so I reached out to him like, yo, are you doing anything early on Saturday? He was like, nah, I'm not really, I don't have anything planned right now. Like, you want to get breakfast? I'm like, yeah, let's do that. He was like, where are you staying at? I'm like, I'm over in Doraville. He was like, all right, bet. How about let's meet at this Waffle House in Doraville at like 9 a.m. on Saturday? I was like, bet. So fast forward to Saturday morning, went and showered, got out, left, and thankfully and luckily the address that he gave me was the Waffle House. It was literally like 2 minutes from the crib. So we met at 9 o'clock, and it's always a good time chopping it up with 12 Kyle. Had just dapped and gave each other a big bear hug, and we sat down in the booth, and we had breakfast, and we talked. Gosh, we talked for probably an hour and a half. I mean, it was a really great conversation. It's always great chopping it up with 12 Kyle. And then after that was over, we left and then went back to the house. Actually, and Rick came home from work because I think he works like from 10 to 2 on Saturdays at his office. And then Danielle had something to do earlier that Saturday morning. So they have some kind of synergistic thing going on because they make it home at the same time. And it was like, we're going to IKEA to shop for some office furniture. You want to roll with us? I was like, absolutely. I'd never been to IKEA. And my mom and my sister always say great things about IKEA. And my mom and my sister told me the same thing that Rick and his wife told me. Like, it's going to be overwhelming when you walk in there for the first time. I'm like, all right, bet, bring it. So we pull up and we get to the IKEA, and I walk inside, and I'm like, boy, they were not lying. It's crazy just seeing like all of the decor setups for all these different rooms and stuff. And I enjoyed it because it's like all these different colors and different patterns, and had all these ideas just spinning in my head on how I want to redo the rooms in my house. And that one gave me a lot of great ideas. So we just killed some time in there. And I didn't even know they serve food in IKEA. I was like, wow, okay. Swedish meatballs, bet. So I ended up getting a couple picture frames, and I got an outdoor rug from there. And then after we left IKEA, we stopped at this Mexican spot called Little Ray, and I had the steak quesadilla, which was fire. Fire. That might have been the best thing I had on my whole trip in Atlanta. It was that good. It was just the steak was cooked and just marinated perfectly, and the cheese. I love a good cheesy, like the string factor's got to be strong with the quesadilla, and that one went above and beyond the Call of Duty. So shout out to Little Ray, and had my Topo Chico, which shout out to Danielle. She keeps the Topo Chico on deck too, unbeknownst to me. I got to give credit to Liz from Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny for getting me hooked on Topo Chico. And lo and behold, Danielle kept like 2 boxes. I think it was like 18 bottles of Topo Chico in a box. And she had like 2 boxes. So she basically had 36 bottles of the Topo Chico in the back of her vehicle. It was funny. Every time she stepped on the brakes or made a turn, you could hear them bottles clinking in the back. But yeah, they kept the Topo Chico on deck. And then after we left with Little Ray, went back to the crib, and Rick and I, we both had the same idea. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to the room and crash. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to my room and crash too. And took a good about 2 or 3 hour nap, and then got up and got and showered again and got dressed because the main event for my trip to Atlanta was an event by the name of Twinkle and Glisten that was spearheaded by the good brother slash friend of the podcast, DJ Wally Sparks. And I missed the last one, and just seeing the pictures up, just seeing the videos of it on his IG from the previous Twinkle and Glisten event, I was like, man, I missed out. I'm not missing this one. I got to be a part of it because this basically it's 4 DJs, and this went from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's 4 DJs, and it was just Southern hip hop all night long. Man, that was an experience. I cannot wait for the next one. So it pulled up. It was at a venue called The Loft in downtown Atlanta. So I got there, and sure enough, there goes Wally Sparks pulling up. Danny Foxburg. I was like, man, what's good, man? And we gave each other a big bear hug because he's been on the podcast 3 times now. And it's really cool to see him and his ideas come to fruition. And I'm glad I got to be there. And then as we're talking, he was like, Shakia's coming up here too. I'm like, Shakia Taylor? He was like, yep, she's going to be here too. I was like, no kidding. Okay, bet. So I'm going to get to meet 2 internet folks in real life. So about 35 minutes later, here comes Shakia, and she didn't come alone. It was her, and then shout out to homie Dante from the Barber's Chair Network. He showed up too. And I was like, yo, that's Dante. Dante pulled up too. I was like, man, it was really great to meet the both of them. And then I got to meet Dawn Montgomery too, and got a hug from her. And she was super cool, man. Couldn't have been nicer. And they're just throwing on the jams. I mean, just classics and classics. I mean, T.I., Last Mr. Big. He threw, man, Wally Sparks threw on Splack Pack during the set. I was like, wow. He threw on Scrub the Ground. He threw on Scarred. Man, he threw on Hoochie Mama. He was just going through the hits. And man, it was just, again, shout out to him. Shout out to Duce the Great. Shout out to Ebony ATL. There was another lady that was DJ that opened up. I cannot remember her name for the life of me, and forgive me for not remembering your name, but she was a great leadoff hitter in that DJ lineup. And so I left there. Gosh, I probably left there right at 2 o'clock. I think Ebony ATL was just getting warmed up with her DJ set. But look, I'm at an age now where I can't stay standing for too long before my knees are looking up at me like, yo, what's the problem here? So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and head out. So I left a little after 2 o'clock, and then I get back to the crib about 2:20, and went straight to sleep. I got up the next day. Got up probably about 10 o'clock. Took another shower, packed my belongings, and send my goodbyes to Rick and Danielle. Again, Rick and Danielle, I could not have asked for a better host. Y'all were extremely hospitable. Y'all went above and beyond to make sure that yours truly was taken care of, man. Seriously, I appreciate y'all. I really appreciate y'all. And so after I left and got my luggage back in the car and made my exit, stopped at the Waffle House one more time to get breakfast, and on my way to head to Truist Park to see the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets play. They had a game at 1:30 on Sunday, and I hadn't been to a Braves game since they left Turner Field, so this was a chance for me to see their new stadium. And man, that thing is nice. There's not a bad seat in the house. The concourse is very spacious, and while I was on the way there, shout out to the homie Ty Will. He texted me. He's like, yo, you still going to the game? Like, yeah, where you sitting at? And I told him in the section, like, yo, I'm going to pull up. And I was like, all right, bet. One thing about Atlanta, I'll never get used to that traffic. It don't matter what time of the day it is. That traffic is absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Man, it was like a snail's pace on 285. And then once I got off the exit and got to Truist Park, and then figured out the lay of the land and figured out where to park and got my parking space. That's a really nice setup at Truist Park with the Battery too, with all of the adjoining restaurants and entertainment venues and stuff. It's a really nice touch, really nice addition to the stadium. And so I get my ticket scanned and I'm making my way to my section and coming and walking in approaching me in the opposite direction. I immediately had the Spider-Man meme. I was like, I know that ain't who I think it is. And lo and behold, and he had the same exact thought. My dog Calvin Wright. If you remember, I on the last Charlotte recap episode I did, he I went to the Charlotte Knights game with him, and we got to meet Larry Johnson. And lo and behold, him and his wife and their little son came down from Charlotte and went to the Braves game. They went to the Saturday and the Sunday game. I mean, he's probably the most diehard Mets fan I know, but I did not at all expect to see him at the ballpark. And we both just had the reaction like, yo, what are you doing here? We dapped and hugged, took a pic. Like, man, that's all right, man. Like, it's just a crazy coincidence that we happened to be there at the same time. I had no clue he was going to be there. And of course, he had no clue I was going to be there too. But yeah, I sat in the outfield. It was about 10 rows up. And I mean, the ticket was only $20. I mean, you really can't beat that. And I sat down, and then right after the first inning, my dog Todd Will shows up, man. And it's always love with Todd Will. And so I didn't stay for the entirety of the game because I had a 4.5 hour drive looking me dead in the face, and I wanted to get home at a decent time. So I left probably around the fourth inning. Then gave Ty a fist bump and like, yo, I'm out. He's like, all right, bet, safe travels. And then got on 285 and again 285, just snail's pace. And finally got back on I-20 East and made my way back to South Carolina. I'm thinking, all right, I'm in the clear. And then it dawned on me, crossing back into South Carolina, I still got to get groceries because I failed to get groceries before I left. So had to make a pit stop in Columbia and take care of that. I would have got home a lot earlier had I not had to get groceries, but whatever. I got back on 26 and eventually I made it back to Long Ridge around 9:30 p.m. on Sunday night. So yeah, that was an incredible experience. Atlanta, I will see you again. That did me good. That really did me good. Getting to meet the internet folks in real life, getting to meet Shakia Taylor and Don Montgomery and Dante and my man DJ Wally Sparks, who I just had on since we last spoke last week. Make sure y'all check out that episode as well. But yeah, that's my Atlanta recap, and that's going to do it for this episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. Tell a friend about the podcast. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find it at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find episodes of this podcast. You can find You can find videos of every episode of this podcast, as well as my baseball podcast at The Plate with Danny Foxworth, Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny, and my Candle podcast, A Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth. And until next time, y'all be good. Peace.